Hi, this is Laura Dodson here with the C2C video for my Unit 4 teaching assignment. For my articles, I chose a couple of different things. I went with a couple articles that have to do with the design model that I chose, and then I found an article that kind of has to do with the actual unit that I created. So starting with that article, I created a third grade unit on researching animal habitats. And so part of that is where the students are actually doing some online research. So I wanted to look at articles that had to do with conducting research in the classroom and how, that affects, the way I've built my lesson. So I found this to be a very interesting article, conducting research-based projects in elementary grades with safety in mind. I'm really into research-based projects, so I thought this article would be interesting. I like that it really breaks down what you should look for in a research project for students, starting with introducing research models, like just showing the students what type of models there are, even breaking down to something basic as a KWL chart for starting research. And I like how it lists some safe sites because that's also a very important part and piece of research. In particular, it talks about Britannica School, which is the research engine that I use in my research project for my third graders. So I found that to be positive for me. At least I know I'm using the right kind of tools with them. Then I like that it covers some of the standards that you might use when you're talking about research. And I really liked this piece when it talks about enhancing project-based learning. This was really interesting to me, how you can take a project-based lesson, add that research piece, and enhance that project-based lesson. I like that it points out that, you don't just start off with that kind of lesson, you kind of work your way up to that. So that's important to remember, that this is like something that you work to and not something that your students would be right there and ready for. But I found it to be an interesting way to enhance a project-based learning. Next, I want to talk about the design model that I chose for my unit. I picked the backwards design. The main reason that I picked this is because I found it pretty interesting, and I have not personally used it in my own teaching, but it seems like, pretty much common sense, starting with what you want to get done and then going from there. So this article, Backward Design, Start with the Outcomes, I found to just be a really solid article about the steps that it takes to get through a backwards design process, starting with identifying the desired result. Step 2, determining the acceptable evidence. So what are you going to use to assess it? What's the goal going to be after you've identified in step 1 the objectives? And then the last part is to map out that curriculum and that instruction and what's going to happen. I really liked this visual. I found it to be very helpful when if you're planning a backwards design model, like how to go from stage 1, how to find the desired results, the evidence in stage 2, and lastly the learning plan. I thought that it was very explanatory, and I found it to be a good resource for me here. What I also found good about this article is that it goes into how to write those high-level outcomes. So that step 1 piece, thinking about Bloom's taxonomy, and then it goes even more into cognitive load and rigor, which I found to be interesting because that's something we had discussed earlier on in the unit. And then lastly, it talks about the difference between outcomes and objectives when you're talking about planning a lesson. So understanding all the differences. I just like that it went into the different aspects of planning a lesson, furthering on into the article. So my last article is Backwards Design from the Derek Bach Center for Teaching and Learning from Harvard University. Um, Although this is a very short article, I found that it was a very persuasive article for backwards design. It was just showing all the positive aspects that it found in it. And what I liked about this is that it put a spin on the whole teaching to the test and talked more about how if you have a worthwhile objective and something that's appropriate, that it's not teaching to the test, but actually, teaching appropriately. Why wouldn't we teach students worthwhile things to get the outcome that we, desired? So I found that to be very refreshing in this article. And the last piece for this that I really appreciated was the template that it gave at the end. This is different than the prior article where it was more of a step-by-step learning flow chart. This is more of a template that you could use when actually planning a backwards design. So I found this to be very helpful, a template that, could possibly be used in the classroom. So those are my articles. I hope you enjoyed them. Thanks.